Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Stay Healthy Knoxville podcast, brought to you by Simply Physio, aimed at helping you live an enjoyable, fit, and healthy life in and around our community of Knoxville, Tennessee. And now, here is your host, Dr. John Mark Chesney.
Well, welcome to the next episode of Stay Healthy Knoxville. I am super excited to have on the show today Dee Matchet. In pursuit of Dee's passion to help herself and others prevent or reverse bone loss, she was introduced to OsteoStrong. OsteoStrong is a safe, natural, proven way to increase bone density without the potential harmful effects of medication. Dee serves as a volunteer peer educator for American Bone Health, a member of the Knoxville Senior Safety Task Force, a sponsor of FHS Health Occupations Students of America chapter, and a volunteer instructor at ORICL, where she teaches a community education course called Good News for Bones. As a former instructor at Carson-Newman University, her background in education has served her well as she is often asked to speak at various community groups in the area. She routinely screens for bone density at numerous health and employee benefit fairs and around the Knoxville area. And we are so lucky to have her in our community. She's also one of my neighbors, neighboring business. And so I'm super thrilled to have her on the show to share her story. Welcome to Stay Healthy Knoxville, Dee.
Thank you. And I am really happy to be here. I love to share about bone health, and it is my passion. So
right. And I was really drawn to your story. I know we met probably about 2 years ago. And I can't remember if it was just being in proximity to each other or how where we actually met, but
yeah, and you've been to my facility.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I've been here and watched you and working, so it's just really neat.
Right, and I know you shared some of your story with me, and I was really, just really drawn into just how you got into, matched up with OsteoStrong and into bone health, and yeah, would love for you to share your story here with our listeners.
Oh, I would be glad to. Osteoporosis runs 3 generations deep in my family. For me, it runs on the paternal side of the family. And most of the time, genetically, it's on the maternal side. Osteoporosis. But for me, it's on the paternal side.
Okay.
So both my great-grandparents walked so bowed over, like almost at a 90-degree angle. Their necks craned to look up at you. Mm-hmm. My paternal grandmother was so bowed over, she got pneumonia, could not clear her lungs, and died. My dad was 6'1.5". By the time he died, he was eye level with me, and I am not a tall person.
And so the guests know, how tall are you, Dee?
I'm 5'3 3/4".
Right, she's on the shorter side.
So he lost, just a tremendous amount of height being bowed over, got where he could hardly swallow, had a difficult time breathing. So we had watched my grandmother die with pneumonia, which was a very difficult thing for her. And so we had really prayed for my dad that he would have a peaceful passing. So at this point, he was 83 years old and in assisted living. So they wheeled him in his wheelchair down on a Sunday morning to church, came back for dinner. He laid his head down on the table and just stopped breathing. We just really felt that was a blessing, but osteoporosis is what killed him. People don't realize in advanced stages, your diaphragm and the whole thoracic cage collapses down onto your hips. And so all the internal organs get compressed, lungs get compressed. He was bowed at the neck. He had a lot of cervical compression fractures. And so it just really made it very difficult for him to breathe and swallow.
And when was this?
He died in 2015.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Fairly recently, yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear, that. I know that's a hard part of your story. But I understand that's
it was my motivation.
Right, that inspired you.
That's my motivation for sure.
How did you go from, seeing that happen to, your father, some relatives to
Well, I was looking because I had seen this in my family history, so I'm looking like, how can I prevent?
For yourself?
For myself. Mm-hmm. So I had for years been, exercising on a regular basis, lifting weights, doing body pump. I was doing body pump class. Yeah. So I was doing what I knew to take care of myself, eating a healthy diet. I'm not a junky eater, and I thought I was doing what I could to prevent this. And then I got a diagnosis with osteoporosis. And so the genetic component of it just kind of overruled
all you were doing,
all that I was doing. I thought, well, there's got to be something else, because I they gave me my options for medication, and I'm like, I really don't want to do any of that.
When were you diagnosed with osteoporosis?
2014, the year before my dad died.
Okay.
So when my dad passed away, I had some inheritance money, and I was looking for a way to invest that money. So I had one track over here looking for a way to invest the money, and another track over here on the other side looking for a way to deal with osteoporosis. And I came across OsteoStrong, and I went, oh my goodness, I can do both. And I can honor my dad and do something that was beneficial, to people who had this condition. The CEO of OsteoStrong lives in Nashville, so it's part of our headquarters. I went there and visited OsteoStrong facilities there, was really impressed with the organization itself and the people involved and their commitment. It's a heartfelt commitment to help people with this condition. And so I thought, you know what, I'm not driving all the way to Nashville to do this once a week because it's a once-a-week program. And at that time I was teaching at Carson Newman, but I decided this is what I wanted to do.
Sure. What? If you don't mind me asking, you're teaching at Carson Newman. What subject were you teaching?
I actually taught international students.
Okay.
So I taught presentation skills and accent reduction.
Okay. So it was quite a shift.
Quite a shift for me.
It wasn't
yes.
necessarily in the health and fitness field, but you just were inspired for the family side, but also your side as well, your personal trajectory of health. To find a solution. And so back when you were doing your own research, it sounds like you were like, hey, what can I do? Like, what were you finding, maybe even before you found OsteoStrong? Like, what were you finding as far as options or what for yourself?
Well, at that point I was like looking at medications and all those kinds of things and just more or less ruling stuff out.
Sure.
That no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. And not really realizing, because I was already doing the things that I knew to do, as far as taking care of my personal health. So I was still just searching for, is there any other option out there?
Just wondering what you heard from or suggested from the medical community for whether it be your father or yourself, like when you were diagnosed with osteoporosis.
Well, my dad had been on bisphosphonates for a short period of time. He was on Fosamax, and it caused him so much digestive upset that he said, I'd rather have the osteoporosis than deal with this on a daily basis. And I knew I had a lot of the same characteristics as my dad, so I didn't think that I would probably be any better, as far as my reaction to the medication. So that was one reason I kind of ruled those bisphosphonates out.
Sure.
Yeah. They really acidify your digestive system. So if you have any kind of digestive issues already, some of the side effects are ulcers, stomach ulcers, that kind of thing. So if you're already having acid reflux or any kind of digestive issues, then and my dad had some issues like that already. So,
I work not necessarily in bone health, but, a lot of our clients are don't want to go down the route of medication as well, right? Whether it be pain medication or migraine medication or, these other things because of whether it be the addictive properties or just the side effects, right, of them, and looking for a more natural, holistic.
Yeah, well, so I was looking at all the side effects of these medications. I thought, well, I'm already dealing with osteoporosis. I don't want to add all of these other complications to that. I'd rather deal with one thing.
So you started off really going to one of the clinics, the OsteoStrong clinics in Nashville.
Yeah, so I just did a visit there, yeah.
Just a visit, and it was more of exploratory of like, hey, I think this is something I want to actually franchise or...
Right, it is a franchise,
okay.
Right.
So yeah, I imagine, had you ever done anything like that? Like
never.
Small business or...
I've never been a business owner before. It was a leap of faith.
Yeah, I'd imagine just, going from that.
Yeah. And when I started my franchise, I think I was the number 26 to open. There's now over 120.
Wow.
In just 3 years' time.
And so
in the States, yeah.
And
we now have overseas facilities as well.
Awesome.
Really
That's
growing.
Awesome. In the Knoxville area,
I'm it.
You're it. Okay, here in West Knoxville and Farragut. Just wondering, even making a big decision like that, and knowing that having the diagnosis of osteoporosis, was there any degree of wanting to see it for yourself first, of before stepping into that?
I had looked at the research that OsteoStrong had.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like down later in our discussion, but I can head into it now.
Sure.
It's based on what's called Wolff's Law, which this Dr. Julius Wolff discovered back in the 1800s, that if he got enough impact on people's bones, their bones got stronger. And so since that time, there's been over 25,000 studies on Wolff's Law. Basically, the Wolff's Law states that bones will adapt to the amount of stress that they're exposed to, or whatever demand is placed upon them. The osteogenic loading that we use does that in a unique way, but the principle itself is well-founded. So we'll talk about that more as we go on. But I was convinced. I mean, it didn't take much to convince me that it would work. I just needed to pursue.
Sure. So you set up shop when?
January of 2017.
2017. So
yeah, I did training in 2016 and did a build out and all that kind of stuff that you have to do, and got everything set up in 2016 and then started in 2017.
Okay. So yeah, you were just a little bit ahead of me. I was the fall of 2017. So yeah, set up shop, and just wondering, even from your own personal experience. So you've gone through the program, right? You had osteoporosis. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us from your own personal experience, like going through that, what has it done? Like, what's been your results?
Well, at my age, my dad was already stoop-shouldered and bowed over. And I mean, you've seen me, my posture is erect, so I know I've slowed this process down. Mm-hmm. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm still working on this, yeah. So
yeah, set up shop, and back about 3 years ago, starting off, what's been the feedback, or I don't know if necessarily the feedback, but since you were the first one in the area, I'd imagine did people even know what you were?
No. No.
What is it that people typically think, or that conversation initially, and how have you overcome just that? What is, I just remember personally driving by and seeing OsteoStrong, and I never heard of it, but you're right next to me as well, and I'm curious, just as far as other people that are in health and wellness, and OsteoStrong is that sounds some sort of fitness place. I don't know what it is, but I just see it, and maybe that's when I stopped by. I can't remember. It's been
I have
a while.
on my front that it says not a gym, not a diet, it's not a pill, I think is what it says, because that's what people automatically assume. What are you selling? They'll ask. That's what I get. What are you selling? Well, I'm not selling any pills. So, is it a gym? No, it's not a gym. It's really unique, and that's why we offer 2 free sessions, because we want you to come and actually experience it and find out.
Well, yeah, I love hearing your story, and just how connected you are, really to the vision and the purpose of OsteoStrong, from your family history and your own, personal history. And then I know, just, seeing you, I know you're very driven and I see you all around, that really spreading, the word of bone health and what you guys, are doing there for the community. So yeah, I commend you for stepping out. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of marketing involved, because again, it was pretty much unknown. I mean, I started with this when it really, nobody knew very few people knew what OsteoStrong was. So there's been a lot of marketing, but really a really good response, because people are looking for an answer.
We're going to take a quick word from our sponsor, and then on the second half of the podcast, we're going to go into just all questions about bone health, and so the questions that Dee get asked regularly, and so we're going to answer them all here on the second half of the show.
Stay Healthy Knoxville is sponsored by Simply Physio, a physio clinic that equips and empowers you to live your life to the fullest so that you can enjoy the things you love to do and be the person you are made to be. Simply Physio specializes in helping people get back to a healthy and active lifestyle, living free from pain and medication and avoiding unnecessary surgery. Stay tuned until the end of the episode to receive a special gift from Simply Physio, and enjoy listening to the rest of the episode.
Well, welcome back, guys. We're going to dive right into some of the top questions that Dee gets asked about bone health. And the first one is, with osteoporosis or bone loss, is it more prevalent now than in the past?
Well, it appears to be, because there's just so many more people that are in that baby boomer generation that have reached this age bracket where bone loss is more prevalent. And then there is more what we call secondary osteoporosis than there used to be. Secondary osteoporosis is not related to age. It's other things, physical conditions. It could be Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, diabetes. There's a number of different things, physical conditions that can contribute to bone loss. Also, a number of medications that contribute to bone loss, like steroids, proton pump inhibitors, which are for acid reflux, SSRIs. Those are serotonin reducers. They're given a lot for mood and that kind of thing. So there's a number, and that's I'm just giving you a short.
Sure.
Yeah, there's quite a few out there that can cause bone loss.
With bone, do you know the prevalence, statistically, of osteoporosis? Just how common it is.
Oh, well, if you go on sites like the International Osteoporosis Institute, those things, they'll talk about epidemic levels. That it's increased quite a bit, yeah. And we need more screening, and how are we going to deal with this? There's more fractures, I used to have those numbers up in my head, and they're not there right now.
We can put in the show notes. You can get back to me on that.
I do know that with hip fractures, there's about a 25% death rate, which you wouldn't think a hip fracture would kill you. Yeah. But it's the fact that being bedridden, there's all these other things that come along with that. And
sure.
The hip does not have a lot of vascular blood flow there. So necrosis sets up fairly easily in the hip. So there's just the complications that come along.
Yeah, and that's something that going back to the beginning of PT school, that's one thing I just remember very that was taught, or as far as hip fractures signify oftentimes death coming on.
Right.
The mortality rate after a hip fracture.
It's quite high, and it's actually higher for men than it is for women, believe it or not. So guys need this checked out too.
Right. So yeah, you need to have strong bones, because one fall, I work with a lot of people with balance issues.
It's life-changing. A hip fracture is life-changing.
It is. And it's a tough surgery oftentimes at that age to, recover from. And that's why the mortality rate. So we very much preach prevention, right? Right.
Well, and talking about prevention, that's another secondary thing that can happen with osteoporosis. If you're not building enough bone density in your youth, then you don't have enough to last during the stage of life where your bone loss is. You're losing after the age 30, 1% to 3% a year, depending on your activity level.
After the age of 30?
After the age of 30. So you need to really, really focus on building bone density in your youth. So if there's something, malabsorption issue, if you're on asthma inhalers, those kinds of things during your youth, then you're not building sufficiently. Even being on birth control during those years when you should be building bone inhibits bone growth. So then people are not laying down sufficient bone during those years, and then it affects them later. It may not affect them right then. It's just affecting them down the road.
And you mentioned, I think, hip fracture is more common in men.
No, it's not that it's more common. They have a higher death rate than women do.
Afterwards. Is typically osteoporosis more one gender?
Typically more female.
Okay.
Because testosterone helps produce bone, and men have larger bones to begin with. They can handle more loss before that becomes a problem for them. Women just are smaller framed.
Do you know even just the standard, testing or diagnostics for individuals? Like if somebody was concerned, what is the process of getting tested? And I'm not sure what is recommended in the medical community, for certain tests,
here's
breast cancer is recommended at a certain age to have a mammogram, right?
There really is no specialty in medicine for osteoporosis. You can't go get a degree to treat people with osteoporosis. So it's being treated by a variety of physicians, geriatrics, endocrinologists, general practitioners, just primary care physicians, really a wide variety. So there's not
doesn't fall under one
doesn't fall
specialty.
So there's not a real uniform way that it's treated. So some doctors are screening earlier than others. Okay, it kind of depends on who you're seeing. Gynecologists, they usually screen women at menopause when they start into menopause to get a baseline, which is great. But not, what I'm saying, it just depends on who's your care provider.
Sure. So if somebody was concerned, what is the screening process like?
Well, now I screen at my facility. We do that for free. Awesome. You can come in. It's a complimentary service that we provide. It is an ultrasound screening. and we screen the heel. So your body will take minerals out of the hip and spine before it starts to take it out of the heel. So if the heel is low, it's a pretty good indication that you've got loss at the other places, and you need to go get a DEXA scan, which is a radiation, an X-ray type of X-ray.
That's more the gold standard, I guess.
Right, it's more the gold
DEXA.
standard. So I can tell you, okay, you probably need to go have this done in your physician. If I can, like I have a printout I could hand you, you can take it to your physician, and he's going, oh yeah, we need to do this. It's kind of like a precursor thing. If we don't see loss in the heel, it doesn't mean there's not anything going on. You could have loss that just hasn't gotten that far, hasn't gotten to the heel yet.
Okay.
For women, you definitely need to have a screening. I would have it done, when you hit that perimenopause stage, so that you've got a baseline so you can tell how much loss is. And they do it, insurance pays for it every 2 years.
For the heel scan?
For the DEXA scan.
For the DEXA every 2 years. Okay, after a certain age?
Medicare at 65.
Okay, for Medicare, will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you guys do the heel scan, and is that how you how you track results, or?
We do the whole bone remodeling process takes about 6 months.
Okay.
So we recheck in 6 months. I may or may not see change at that point because your body will also put the minerals back in the hip and spine before it puts it back into the heel. So your body's really smart and it knows where you need it. If we do see change at 6 months, that's a real positive indication that we've got some bone growth going on in other places. If we don't, at that point, I'm usually talking about some nutritional things so that we can make sure we're not overlooking something.
So we've been talking about osteoporosis, and some other people may have heard the term osteopenia. So can you tell us the difference between the two? So
osteopenia is bone loss that's measurable, but not into an area that is at risk for fracture yet.
Okay.
So these were established by the World Health Organization. After DEXA scan became available, they were trying to find a uniform way to report research. And so they came up with this scale. So 0 being in the middle, positive and negative on either side. So they decided that osteopenia starts at about -1 or so. Osteoporosis, we know -2.5 or more. We could tell that from X-ray already. Osteopenia is more of a gray area.
Okay.
So other factors come along in terms of your risk for fracture, like your balance, diet, other things are going to be more contributive to your whole risk factor, what the picture looks like.
Sure. So is that something that you guys can pick up in your testing, like somebody that's just osteopenia?
Yes, just for the heel. Well. We're not looking at anything except the heel.
Going into, how it works, you mentioned, earlier about the Wolff's Law and loading, the skeleton. Can you explain that a little bit more? What does that look like for, practically speaking, at OsteoStrong? So our equipment was designed by Dr. John Jaquish. His mother was in her 70s. She developed osteoporosis. He knew Wolff's Law. He's like, I know it works. How could I get it to work for my 70-year-old mother who is not going to do high-impact activities, okay? So his dad is a mechanical engineer. And he told his dad, this is what I need to do. They built a prototype in their garage, actually. In 6 months, his mom went from osteoporosis to osteopenia. In another year, she went to normal bone density. So then he began to research, set up a clinic, did his doctoral thesis on this. Since then, we've had multiple research, studies done out there. But what it does, we're compressing and releasing the bone in a minute way, but enough to create what we call fluid shear stress. So it moves the interstitial fluid inside the bone. That excites these precursor cells called osteocytes, and they start signaling pathway telling the bone to build, so to creating more osteoblasts that build the bone. I do that every day. I mean, I can move that fluid. Sometimes people have to work at that as far as getting a little more muscle mass before they're able to reach these thresholds. The threshold is based on your weight. But once we get that to happen, every week the response lasts about a week. So you just come in and you re-trigger that response every week. So we can move the fluid with osteogenic loading. Your body is still looking for the nutrients. It's still looking for calcium and magnesium and vitamin D. So nutrition is involved in it as well. And what role do you guys play in nutrition? That piece of it?
Yeah, so I'm not a nutritionist, but we have now partnered with Calton Nutrition.
Okay.
So you can read Jason Colton's book. It's called Rebuild Your Bones. They've done some wonderful things with micronutrients in bones, so we've kind of affiliated with them.
And that's something that when you say you partner with them, how does that look? Or,
okay,
or people
so
interested in?
I know, because this is brand new. This has just come about this year, and I actually just signed my affiliate papers this past week.
Okay,
so brand new, hot off the press, but we are going to be able to offer some nutritional
piece to it as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So is it, you guys just focus on certain areas of the body, like the spine and the hips? That's what we've talked about so far.
So DEXA scan only measures lumbar L1, 2, 3, and 4, and it measures 4 points in the hip and gives you what's called Ward's triangle is the narrowest point in the hip. So they look at that, but that's the area that's narrowest, and so it's the most likely to fracture. We're actually working on other things as well. So we have a station for upper body that's building from shoulder down into the wrist. There's a station for low body building from hip down into the ankle. There's a station for core that builds rib cage, because ribs are another common break area. They don't measure those, but that's fairly common. People have been known to just cough and break a rib. And we have a station for posture that strengthens the muscles in the back and strengthens vertebrae, so builds bone in the vertebrae. So we're looking at all the different areas.
The OsteoStrong, when I met Dee, it's one of those things you really need to experience.
Yeah, you have to experience it for sure.
We're trying our best to describe it, for you. So you at
so
least
the reason we say it's not a gym, you don't sweat.
Right.
And
Dee's taking me through the whole process.
You can talk through the whole thing. You don't get winded. It's
and so it's really fascinating. It's really interesting, but we're trying our best to give you understanding, our listeners that, specifically interested in building better bone health. Enough information for you to come in and test and test it out and see it for yourself. But it is very unique. I've never done anything like it. It's very, it's calibrated. Right.
Yeah. So it's measurable.
Like you're pressing. I just remember looking at the sensors, and
so we put your weight into the computer system. It calculates the threshold you have to reach to move that interstitial fluid. So you can see that on the screen. There's a line there telling you where it is. And when you have to hold it past that line for 5 seconds.
5 seconds. I can remember that time.
You have to maintain that for 5 seconds to get sufficient excitement in those osteocytes. So it's very, you can see what you're doing. And then it measures from week to week. We can see your, because it triggers myofibril growth. So you can actually see your strength increase. It gives you a percentage of strength increase, which is a reflection of the myofibrils growing.
And so you have how many different stations, you said?
4 stations.
4 stations.
And we also include vibration before and after as well. There's some stimulation that happens with that as well.
Okay, so there's like 6 different...
6 steps altogether. It takes about 15 minutes, though, to do the whole thing. None of it lasts very long.
Yeah, 15 minutes, and you don't have to be in exercise clothes.
No, you come dressed as you are. Only thing we ask is that you wear a flat shoe. You can't wear high heels. We don't want to twist somebody's ankle.
So tell us, how is the osteogenic loading different than taking medication for bone loss? And can people do both?
You can do both. I have people that are on medication that are coming. I have people that are wanting to transition off their medication, but they're trying to, make that change. Then I have people who don't want to be on medication, or they can't take the medication. Maybe they've got some sort of response to that medication that they can't take it. And so we're the alternative for them. So yes, you can do both. The difference is medication blocks osteoclast production. So those are the cells that go in and take old bone away. It doesn't actually build new bone unless you're on an anabolic. That's something different. But the bisphosphonate class of drugs, what they do is cause apoptosis or death of the cell of osteoclast, or some of them inhibit the maturation of those cells. It's a different process for different ones, a different pathway. But the end result is that you don't have as many osteoclasts. So then old bone is not leaving. What we're doing is stimulating new bone to come in. So we're balancing this thing out. What happens with osteoporosis is that you've got more osteoclasts than you do osteoblasts, so you get more bone loss and you do more bone gain. We're just trying to balance that out and create more bone gain.
So medication really isn't designed...
It's a short-term answer. It's not the long-term answer.
Okay.
because long term you want that old bone going away because it's the weaker bone.
So, you have the program. Are there other things, beyond, you mentioned, the diet piece that you guys are rolling out as well, like other things that you recommend people to do as well to complement?
We always recommend that people do some sort of cardiovascular. We're not doing anything for cardio, so you need some sort of cardio exercise as well. And if you're working out in a gym, what we're doing is tapping into the ATP, that quick burst energy that is in the sarcoplasm that surrounds the muscle. That's why you don't have to do this repeatedly. You don't sweat with it because it's a one-time, like a sudden effort kind of thing. So the more you're working out at the gym, the more muscle you're building, the more ATP there is in those cells. So it all kind of works together. It works well together. And you don't have to do that kind of exercise. You don't have to do weight-bearing exercise, but it is certainly an adjunct and helpful.
It can be complementary.
And there's so many other health benefits to it as well.
Sure. So you mentioned that it will it stimulates the interstitial fluid, and there's some sort of week duration. So most people, like when they're getting started with the program, they come in once a week or come in a little frequently?
No. You always come once a week. The bone, you know how you exercise your muscle and it needs some time to recuperate? Mm-hmm. The bone needs that as well.
Okay.
So it's just once a week.
Okay.
More is not beneficial to you.
And then is there a point where people don't need once a week, or just once a week is really?
So once you've attained the bone density that you want, like you've come back to normal, then we have a maintenance program where you can come every other week to maintain, but that's your option. You don't have to do that.
Sure. Okay. And then, so you mentioned, so you'll measure, you get some measurements at the very beginning, and then there's your weekly measuring just the force.
Yeah, we're measuring force production on a weekly basis.
And then at a 6-month mark is when you'll look to see as far as improvements in the heel scan. And any other pieces of measurement that you guys are doing as well?
Yeah, we also do a balance test on a B-Track system. So we're looking at sway. And when we're increasing the core station increases core strength. And then one reason we're incorporating the vibration is to increase proprioception. So you can explain proprioception.
Sure, how the body is recognize the joints where they are in space.
Right.
If that's helpful. So you know the angles of certain movements and
right. And so vibration really helps with that proprioception. So we'll do a tandem stance for people who cannot stand on one leg. That's kind of like our starting point with that. And then my goal is to get everybody to be where they can stand on one leg for 30 seconds. Most falls happen when people are going up and down stairs, up or down an incline, and that one foot is off the floor. So we're trying to give them enough balance that they can recoup. If they get off balance, they've got enough core strength that they can correct. If they need more than that, I send them to you.
That's right. We help, there's a piece of the dynamic balance and, more of the static balance, and people really need both to help maximize their potential to not fall and break a hip and be in a bad situation. Besides, addressing fracture prevention, are there other ways, you talk about helping with the bone density, helps with the fracture prevention. You mentioned the balance and the core strength. Do those help as well as far as core strength?
We're just trying, most people fracture when they fall. So if we can reduce that risk of falling, then we've reduced the fracture risk as well. Plus, because this also triggers myofibril growth, the muscle gets denser. So it acts like a shock absorber. The more muscle you have around that bone, if you do have a fall, you've just got more padding in there to protect the bone. So this is one reason it works. It's working so well. Like medication only addresses one issue. Mm-hmm. This is addressing both the bone and the muscle issue that's involved in that.
Are there other people that could benefit from osteogenic loading beyond, just who we would typically think of somebody with osteoporosis?
So our primary clientele are people that have bone loss, mm-hmm. but we also have people who are there for just athletic performance. I've got a couple that are coming, they're involved in these Spartan races.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those kind of things?
I've done,
You've done
something like
Spartan?
that. Not a Spartan one, but I've done their competitors.
Right. So they're trying to increase muscle density, and increase endurance and strength for that. And of course, balance and If you improve balance, you've improved your ability for a lot of things. I have golfers coming because they get a longer stroke because we're improving balance and then improving their upper body strength as well. So it's really great for athletes too, because you get, most athletes know what a 1 rep max is. Mm-hmm. We're emulating a 1 rep max without actually having to lift the weight.
Dee, you were speaking somewhere else, it was maybe a year or two ago, and I remember you showing the heel drop.
Yeah.
So that's something that I, when I'm talking with somebody, when they bring up osteoporosis or, concerns of that, I mentioned, I was like, you got to go see Dee. But in the meantime, let me show you something that Dee taught me in a presentation. You mind telling people what the heel drop is and how they can, something they can even work on? I would
tell people if you've got bone loss in your spine, then you want to be cautious with this.
Sure.
But what you're doing is lifting up, like standing on your tiptoes, getting as high as you can, and then dropping your weight onto your heels as hard as you can. So again, if you have severe bone loss in your spine, you don't want to do this. But what studies have shown...
Probably not if you have plantar fasciitis either.
Okay.
on the heels.
What the studies have shown is that it helps you maintain density in the hip. It doesn't really build, but it does help you maintain.
Yeah, so that's an easy way to even get started is doing the heel drop. So we mentioned how it's really different than working out. As far as at the gym, are there pieces of this that people could get just at the gym?
Yeah, the difference is the amount of force that it takes to actually move that fluid would be very difficult to do in the gym. So upper body, it takes 2.5 times your body weight. Like in the gym, you'd have to lift 2.5 times your body weight to get the same effect we're getting with osteogenic loading and not having to lift the weight. Low body, the fluids, we only know this for low body, but we've got much more study because of hip and femur fractures. We know the point at which the fluid starts moving is 4.2 times your body weight, but the ideal for building bone is 7 times your body weight. That's a lot of weight to have to move in the gym. Yeah. Ribs don't take this much, only 1.5 times your body weight, but most people aren't going to do 1.5. And it's a very strategic, we're in an isometric position. It's all about how you're positioned to be very difficult to position yourself.
Yeah, how do you guys load the ribs? I mean, that's an odd angle.
Right, so it's like it's a seated crunch, but we're keeping the neck and the line in alignment with the spine so that we don't put pressure in that area.
Okay.
And this is one of those things you have to come and experience. But we're able to load that without actually... I don't know how you would do that in a gym, to tell you the truth.
Right.
And then the postural one, again, it takes about 2 to 2.5 times your body weight for that one as well. So it's weight you're not going to do in it. And you couldn't do it. If you did it, you wouldn't do it safely. It's just, that's a lot of weight to have to control over the whole time. Even if you could lift it, can you control releasing it? So.
Right. Now, I understand you guys have like some sort of wall of honor or wall of right.
Yeah.
So what kind of improvements do you see with
we
clients?
Can see that percentage of increase. So when people's force production is increased by 25%, they get to go on our strength wall, and then we just watch them climb the wall. It's really neat. I've got a couple of people at 200% strength increase.
Wow. Well, Dee, thanks for sharing all about bone health and how people can combat and fight back against, oftentimes just the effects of living life, but where you can live life well and continue to live life well despite so
it's
age.
all about quality of life, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do for people, is just help them maintain quality of life for as long as possible.
Well, a few other things I would like to get to. How long have you been in Knoxville? I
actually was living in in Morristown, teaching there in Jefferson City. I moved 2 weeks after I opened the facility. So.
Okay. Well, we like asking some questions specific about Knoxville or greater Knoxville area. So that could include Jefferson City and areas up there. But would be interested in hearing something on your bucket list.
I want to skydive. I want to do a tandem skydive. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, I'd like to too. I think my brother has.
Oh, really?
But I feel like that's one of those things that you can't really know what it's like until I just can't imagine like leaning over that plane and jumping out.
Yeah, but how exhilarating was that?
I think I think I would enjoy it, but who knows? You may get up. I might get up there and just pee my pants and who knows what. I have done hang gliding.
Oh, you have. That would be fun too.
Tandem hang gliding, but I really think that's nothing like skydiving because it's very peaceful. I mean, you're up in the air. If you're scared of heights, you probably don't want to do either one.
I don't want a bungee cord. I'm afraid that is like, what if something happens and I hit and the cord wasn't, that's scarier
that problem
to
could
me
be
than
there with skydiving too.
Yeah, probably so.
Well, you'll have to let us know, when you're planning your skydiving, maybe at a future episode. Okay. What's one of your favorite places to enjoy around Knoxville, like outside if you have some time off?
Right. So the various parks around here, like Founders Park and out by the lake. I just like to walk. My daughter and I go walking a lot. Perfect.
So Founders Park is one that you like to. That's one real close to us, and
it's easy to get to. So.
Yeah. Sometimes that's. Just enjoy the things that are close to you, right? And it doesn't have to. The Smokies are amazing, but
I like to paint, so sometimes we will just take our canvas and paints and go sit and paint, to walk first and then sit down and paint
over at the park or something like out there. Awesome. Yeah. You have a favorite restaurant you enjoy around Knoxville?
Little Bangkok. I love Little Bangkok. I eat gluten-free and I can eat there gluten-free. So
okay, where's that?
Little Bangkok? Mm-hmm. You not ever been to Little Bangkok?
No, I have not.
Okay. So
I don't get out much. I got young kids. And
corner of Campbell Station and Parkside.
Okay.
You know where the Walgreens is on that corner?
Yes.
It's in that little strip behind there.
Okay. Yeah. Like by
so it's Thai food.
Blue Ridge Yoga.
Yeah,
is
right
over
in
there. Mellow Mushroom.
Right in that area.
Okay. Leaving our listeners a tip, a recommendation for staying healthy, in particular maybe bone health, what would you leave our listeners?
Plenty of sunshine. Sunshine builds vitamin D, which helps with bones, because vitamin D actually helps your body absorb calcium.
Yeah, that's hard to do this time of we've had so much rain.
Oh, that's true.
But
true. A good day is a day when we have some sunshine around here.
Yeah, hopefully the sun is coming soon, so we can all enjoy some more sunshine. Well, Dee, if somebody's interested in testing, finding out more, you mentioned first of all that you offer 2 free sessions. Is that right? Uh-huh. So if somebody wanted to take you up on that offer or just find out more information, or maybe they have a question to ask, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can call us at 423-839-6600.
It's 423?
423. I know that's odd, but
okay.
We are in Farragut, though.
Okay.
Then our Facebook page, you can look on there, and read more on that. But there's also a calendar link where you can go and set up an appointment time for a complimentary session with us. Okay.
And what's the Facebook page?
It's just Osteo Farragut.
Osteo Farragut.
Osteo Strong Farragut.
Okay.
Well, and they could also just drop by. We're next to
that's right.
El Mezcal Restaurant in Aspen Square. So everybody knows where Sam and Andy's is. It's that same strip.
And if you know where Simply Physio
yes, we're around the corner from Simply Physio.
You'll probably find Osteo Strong a little easier than us, since we're one block behind off Kingston Pike. But yeah, right here in West Knoxville and Farragut.
We'd be glad to show people around, just let you observe if you want to come and drop in.
Yeah, and I really encourage any listeners out there that, and it maybe you're listening and you have a parent, who is kind of in that age of, concerned about falling, has been, questionable bone health. So, if you're listening, oftentimes, people that are listening to the podcast are maybe more middle-aged, or younger, but yeah, mention this to, your parents, if your parents are that age, too. And
I had a fella who, had been with me 5 weeks. He came in and he said, I can get up out of my recliner now without struggling. I said, really? He was having to get down on his hands and knees in the floor, climb the furniture to stand up. 5 weeks he could get up out of his recliner. That's life-changing for people. Right.
So yeah, come visit Dee at Osteo Strong and take her up on those offers. She's doing some amazing work, and I'm so happy to have her as a business neighbor, but here in the Knoxville community, just serving the community and helping people live longer and live stronger.
Thank you.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, stay healthy, Knoxville.
Thank you for tuning in to the Stay Healthy Knoxville podcast, brought to you by Simply Physio. If your pain is preventing you from staying healthy and active, and you'd like to avoid surgery, pain medicine, or just want to get back to doing the things you love in and around Knoxville, we offer both a free ebook and free over-the-phone consultation to help you figure out the root cause of your pain and the next best steps for resolving it. Find our ebooks online at simplypt.com/health-tips. There you will find ebooks for topics such as neck and shoulder pain, lower back and hip pain, knee pain, and TMJ. These quick-to-read reports will provide you with expert tips, tricks, and exercises to help solve your pain from the comfort of your own home. Just visit simplypt.com/health-tips to download your ebook and have it delivered directly to your inbox. We also offer free, no-obligation phone consultations with a doctor of physical therapy to Knoxville area residents. Just call us at 865-351-0615 or visit us at simplypt.com and click the Talk to a PT button on the home page to schedule a call with us. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Stay Healthy Knoxville podcast.